This new year, why not let Audible expand your life by listening? Explore over 1 million audiobooks, podcasts, and exclusive Audible originals that'll inspire and motivate you. Tap into your well-being with advice and insight from leading professionals and experts on better health, relationships, career, finance, investing, and more. Maybe you want to kick a bad habit or start a good one. If you're interested in learning how to master your emotions and hearing scientifically backed advice for using your emotions as a tool, may I suggest Shift by psychologist and bestseller author Dr. Ethan Kross? Trust me, listening on Audible can help you reach the goals you set for yourself. Start listening today when you sign up for a free 30-day trial at audible.com/Wondery. That's audible.com/Wondery.
Hello, welcome back to Season 2 of Gem State, the trials of Chad and Lori Daybell. In Season 1, we followed the trial of Lori Vallow Daybell, a mother who was accused of killing her 2 children as part of a conspiracy with her new husband and others. The children, JJ Vallow and Tylee Ryan, were found buried in Chad Daybell's backyard. The case itself is as bizarre as it is disturbing. Chad and Lori look like any other parents you might see at soccer practice or the grocery store or at a playground. In Season 1, we followed Lori's trial in real time. We were reporting as it happened, while also trying to take a closer look at what happened that led these 2 seemingly average people to murder 3 family members. Become the heads of what can really only be described as some sort of a end of the world cult. Lori was ultimately sentenced to life in prison without parole after being convicted on all counts, including conspiracy to kill Chad's then wife, Tammy Daybell. In Season 2, we're going to take a bit of a different approach. Chad's trial has already concluded. We reported on the trial from idahonews.com in some detail for those of you looking for more information about the case. This season, we have the benefit of hindsight of 2020, and now we will be speaking with some of the people closest to this case. We'll be getting an inside look at how this case started. We're going deeper than we have before. This season, I am joined by Andy from Idaho Crime Squad, who's been following and reporting on this case since very early on.
Hi, okay. Ryan. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to have you join us. This has been a real whirlwind, obviously. You were there from the beginning. You started with the whole beginning when news was breaking about the missing children, right?
Yeah, I think that I think a lot of us were. I was one of the ones who was, watching on the news, browsing Reddit, that kind of stuff. And the case always captivated me. I was heartbroken along with everyone else when they found the children. I've felt it in my veins, just like everybody else from day one. And then, as things progressed, I was able to be there for a few days of Lori's trial. And then I was on my couch with popcorn watching Chad's trial. So I've been there through the whole thing, and finally feels like we get to take a big breath out, right? It feels like It's all kind of come to an end. So I'm excited to be here to talk about it with you.
I think this one, what's going to be really different about this one is that we're able to really look at this Chad's trial now in hindsight. I think during Lori's, especially during Season 1 for us, we were in the thick of it. We were reporting on it. I was in court. I was working closely with all of the reporters who were covering it. So we had no idea what was going on. This one, we have a little bit more of the benefit of hindsight because now we
have the conclusion.
We have the conclusion. We know how it ends.
Yeah.
We also have seen everything play out. What were some of your big takeaways? Just give us some of the highlights from Chad's trial.
Chad's trial was a little more complicated just because of the death penalty of it all. And it was longer, and I got to actually watch every single day instead of Lori's trial where, we had to wait a little while until we could get the sound clipping.
Right. We should make sure people who didn't follow along like we did know that Chad faced the death penalty.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Which was different than Lori. Lori, that was taken off about a month before her trial started. Also, they live streamed Chad's trial.
Right. So it was available on YouTube, on Judge Boyce's YouTube channel,
yeah,
and you could
day.
watch it every single day.
Yep.
Was that a good or a bad thing? I'm not sure. It was really convenient for us reporters because we got access to it. It was really easy to find. But the major takeaways, I would say, one, don't commit murder in Idaho. It's the same with the Kohberger thing. I can't believe some people will cross state lines and commit murder in a pro-death state. I mean, it's just Idaho will sentence you to death. I think it was a little bit shocking because in recent years, Idaho doesn't kill people like they used to. It seems like sometimes we'll go 10, 15, 20 years without putting anybody to death. And a lot of people, I think I did a death row inmate episode on my podcast, and it was something like in the last 40 years, over 30 people have been sentenced to death and only 3 have actually been given the penalty.
Sure.
And so
we were reporting on that same thing on Idaho News that the average wait time from actually being convicted, sentenced to death, the average person will spend something like 28.7 years on death row.
I mean, if you look at Gerald Pizzuto, he's been on death row for over 30 years. Mm-hmm. He has been by far our most expensive death row inmate just because of all of his health problems. I mean, the state has spent over $10 million. When
they tried to kill him and failed.
No, that was Thomas Creech.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right.
That was Thomas Creech. Yeah. Gerald Pizzuto has renal kidney failure.
That's right.
So have put him back on and taken him off death row 3 or 4 times.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's easy to get everyone
totally
conflated.
Well, they're both awful people. So
yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. They tried to execute Creech,
mm-hmm.
and then they couldn't find a vein.
The rumor is the jailbird rumor is that he was not drinking water for several days leading up to his execution so that they wouldn't be able to find a vein.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And that is a common practice in death row inmates.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm. And he's so old at this point. I mean, he's been on death row the longest.
Would be hard to find anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So, and now, they have to issue a whole new death warrant.
Mm-hmm.
The drug that they used to kill is no longer valid to use. So they'll have to wait another, who knows, sometimes it takes up to 5 years to get that drug. It's really hard to get for good reason.
They actually we were just reporting on this. They actually just got more of the drug. But now it's really controversial because where did they get it? How did they get it?
Exactly.
It's really...
I mean, it's a bioweapon. It's really dangerous for anyone who has it, right? So...
well, now Idaho has just passed that they can use the firing squad.
Yes, that's been brought back in. And I think one of the reasons was because of the wait times that it was taking. Because I think we get it from China. And the wait times that we were waiting to get the drug, which is another reason that Gerald Pizzuto is still alive, is because he's just been waiting for the drug to come.
Right.
So the firing squad, I mean, that's its own whole controversy.
I'm sure we could go down the whole.
We could fall down the rabbit hole, for hours and hours. But anyway, to bring it back to where we were going as a good segue, the death penalty in Chad's trial convoluted a lot of things and made the trial a little bit more intricate, just because. Like we were talking about earlier, jury selection is huge when it comes to death penalty cases. It takes forever just because of the moral aspect of it.
Right.
It's very, very difficult to screen these people and make sure that there isn't going to be a tainted jury, because if there is a tainted jury, then he has more chances at appeals. And like I said, the morality behind it, you have to make sure that everyone who is on the jury is very well aware of exactly what's going to happen if he is found guilty.
Oh, I think they summoned at least 3,000 people.
I mean, I think all of us know at least one person who got summoned.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And, Idaho's a pretty small place. So,
sure.
Yeah.
One, Boise's still, is obviously growing quite a bit, but it's still kind of got the small town feel where.
Totally. Where everyone you have has 15 mutual friends on Facebook, right?
Of course.
Everyone knows everybody, or they used to be roommates with somebody or whatever.
Yeah. As my dad always says, if you're more than one connection away from anyone in Idaho, you're not trying very hard.
Or they probably just moved here or something.
Right.
Yeah. So I lost my thought.
Well, I think while you're searching for that thought, one of the things that I think from as we were trying to report on it and as we were deciding how much are we going to cover Chad's trial, because in Lori's trial, it was every day. We had at least one reporter there, especially because it wasn't being live streamed. So we had a reporter and a photographer that were there all day, every day. They were tweeting and sending back live updates to us as quickly as they could. We were covering every aspect of that trial. I think what the general consensus was is that this is just going to be more of the same thing. And so I know we really wanted to approach it more from a standpoint of what's different between the two trials.
Yeah.
What stands out in your mind as key differences?
That's a good question. I want to start with witnesses. Witness testimony was very different, in my opinion. I expected Chad's trial to be kind of like same song, second verse. But anyone who really followed both trials knows that as far as testimony goes, they were different enough that it was noticeable. First of all, just the new witnesses that we got, hearing from Melanie was new. And then, as a comparison, Zulema testified in both, and her testimonies seemed vastly different, in my opinion. I saw Zulema live. I was in court the day in Lori's trial, and I had a completely different opinion of her that day than I did when she testified in Chad's trial. Just because of the way she carried herself and her confidence almost, she felt a lot less confident in Chad's trial, in my opinion.
I agree. I also was kind of surprised by some of the things that she said. I think maybe that goes to your point about her confidence. Maybe it was she was just kind of more open to some of the different things. Maybe she thought she was already on top of everything because she'd already, testified in Lori's trial. Yeah.
I think she got grilled a lot harder. And I think that she was nervous because of Chad's lawyer. I think that would make anyone nervous. I could go on and on about John Pryor, and I probably will. But I think that between the prosecutors and Chad's lawyer, I think she was a lot more intimidated than she was in Lori's trial. She also seemed, I don't know if she was coached for Lori's trial, which is totally possible, and not for Chad's trial, or if the questions she was being asked in Chad's trial were just a little bit more well put as a way to confuse her, which is very possible with Mr. Pryor.
No.
She just seemed a little more shaken, and her answers seemed a little more earnest almost in Chad's trial, a little bit more, off the tongue instead of well thought out.
I almost got the feeling that it was kind of like maybe she has had enough time and enough distance now where maybe she wasn't, we've referenced their group as like cult like Chad and Lori, depending on who you ask or what day it was, were either the cult leaders together.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed, at least it gave me the impression that she had been far enough removed now from the cult, if we can call it that maybe she's starting to see things a little more clearly.
I completely think that's a possibility. If she's in any sort of therapy, even if it's an LDS run therapy, she has to be coming to some sort of conclusions in her mind and having some groundbreaking moments. When I covered her testimony in Lori's trial on the TikTok, I still had a feeling in my mind that she was beginning to wake up. And I had mentioned that on the TikTok. She's a victim. As much as it's easy to paint out a lot of these people as horrible people, Both can be true. Like in the case of Alex, Alex can be a horrible person and he can also be a victim. And so in Zulema's case, I don't think Zulema is a bad person, but she is a victim, and she, does have almost like this battered wife syndrome, right? Where she is feeling she felt very small during Lori's trial because she is coming out of severe trauma. And beginning to wake up. So I think it's a total possibility that in the year since Lori's trial, she's come to a lot of conclusions in her own mind and really starting to awaken,
Yeah. Well, and I think that I think that that's true with several of the witnesses that we saw testify. I know you and I were speaking earlier about Melanie Gibb and how she really seemed a little different this time around as well. What were your thoughts as
Melanie Gibb? Like I was saying earlier, it's really easy to give these characters, to assign blame, right? It's really easy just being an outsider looking into this huge web. It's almost hard to believe that any of them are innocent. And I think that there's culpability in every single one of them, but it was up to us during the trial and more so up to the jury to decide the level of culpability, right? Melanie Gibb specifically, I remember thinking, watching her testify, that she was more of a victim than I had given her credit for and probably had less to do with it than I could have ever imagined. Like I said, it was easy for me to borderline hate these people just because, I have a different level because I've seen the autopsy photos of the kids in Lori's trial. And so that level of anger that I felt towards everybody in this case was so intense. And then watching Melanie testify in Chad's trial, I felt some empathy for her. So I think that her testimony really changed the minds of a lot of people and their opinions on her.
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting point. What do you think? Is there anyone else that stands out involved in this case that you also changed your mind on? Either, wow, they're way more culpable or way more involved than I thought, or the opposite. Wow, I didn't
get to see Alex testify, obviously. But before Lori's trial, I guess I didn't understand the gravity of his involvement until I truly heard all the testimony, especially from Zulema. So Alex, at this point, I understood that he was involved. I understood that he probably was the one to do it with the children, but I really felt just how involved he was. And the duality of that is also that he was also a victim to this cult. So, I kind of go back and forth on Alex. As far as anyone else goes, Melanie Boudreau, I have mixed opinions on Melanie Boudreau. I think...
And that's Lori's niece.
That is Lori's niece, yeah. Yes. In my personal opinion, and if this is too much, I'm sorry, if there is one other person who should be charged in this case, I would believe it would be Melanie Boudreau.
Interesting.
I really do. I think that she knew a lot more than she ever let on in the initial investigations. And that's just my personal opinion.
I think, and this is going to be a little bit of a tease here, but the conversation that you had with Lieutenant Hermosillo really, I think, highlighted not necessarily her culpability to me, but I think it really was illuminating just on how much a lot of people were a part of this cult, were a part of everything that happened. I think, sorry to tease that to everyone, but that will be coming up.
It brought me a sense of reassurance to my own intuition that he believes that someone else should have been charged in this case. And just to, clear this up, he's not allowed to say who, right. Just because of the ongoing proceedings in Arizona. But yeah, I almost got him to tell me, yeah. And I can't put words in his mouth, but I know that my intuition is telling me that if I could have charged one more person, it probably would have been the niece, Melanie.
Wow. I think that I think this whole case just gets crazier the more you look at it.
It's like falling down this really crazy rabbit hole, right? And everywhere you look, there's another Cheshire cat. It just goes on and on and on. And I can't imagine what the investigators were, because everywhere they went, there were no answers and more weirdness. It seems like it never ends in this case. It's the strangest case I think any of us have ever heard of. And it happened like really right in our backyard.
It was really close to home for a lot of us. And I think in more ways than one. I know reporters that quit being reporters after Lori's trial. You talked about seeing the autopsy photos, how that changed you. I know just from a lot of the detail that, we've obviously reported on and covered and unfortunately had to be witness to. This case is so dark and twisting and crazy that it's been very.
I think it's taken all the years of the first time this news broke to us, through all the trials, the question that all of us still are wrapping our brains around is, how did this happen? And I don't think we'll ever know.
Yeah, I agree. I think one of the very unsatisfying things is why. We know that, we have the prosecution, their theory, which I think was the same in both, is that it was about sex, it was about money, it was about power. I think that was their opening argument in both trials.
Yeah.
The opening statement from the prosecution, I felt like could have been lifted straight out of Lori's trial and almost verbatim to Chad's trial, which I think was kind of their point. They're both equally as culpable in this. But I think, again, it goes back to how did it get this far? Everyone has either been party to or knows someone who's been party to that lie that just got out of hand.
It just snowballs.
This seems like something so different.
It does. It seems so much bigger. It seems like not only how did we let these two people do this, but how was there a community surrounding them, and it was still able to come to a point of murdering children. How did that happen? I think a lot of it has to do with religion, obviously. I'm not saying that the Mormon Church is, culpable in this at all.
Sure.
But religion as a whole, organized religion as a whole, it's when there starts to be offshoots of those religions where danger starts to happen. We look at we have LDS, the Latter-day Saints, and then we have the FLDS, which is very, very dangerous. And then it's the same thing, the LDS Church, and then Lori's and Chad's cult. Right. And I think that that's what makes it possible, because these people are able to manipulate these emotions and these spiritual feelings and being able to use them to their benefit for sex, money, power. So I think that's how it all, how they're able to do it. Yeah.
This whole trial was difficult in its own right. What was one point where, or did you have a point where you were like, I need to stop. I'm done here.
In Chad's trial?
Mm-hmm.
No, I did not have that point. I had that point in Lori's trial. I did not have that point in Chad's trial because I had already seen the worst of it.
Sure.
So anything that the jury was seeing, I had already seen. And so at this point, I just wanted them to get him. I just wanted them to get him so, so bad. My turning point in Lori's trial happened on day one. So I cried a little, and then I put on my big girl pants, and I wanted to get them. That was the mindset I went into. You mentioned that you had met some reporters who, left the industry after Lori's trial. And for me, I really, really thought about it. And at that point, I was just an amateur reporter on TikTok. So I had never seen something quite like that. But I saw the worst of it a year ago. And from that point on, I just was rooting for the prosecution from then on out. I didn't care what they threw at us or anything like that. I just was hoping that we were going to get them.
That's I think it's really interesting because I think that we obviously from a reporting standpoint and even from the legal standpoint, we're supposed to go into this with this mindset of innocent until proven guilty. I don't feel like anyone, well, I shouldn't say anyone. I think that was really tough in this one. I think that it felt personal. It felt like there was a very clear answer going in that these people were responsible for the death of these two kids. The
only time that becomes an issue is with the jury.
Right.
And so it's the same as with the Brian Kohberger case. Anytime something tragic or something horrific like this happens in Idaho, unfortunately, the odds of getting an untainted jury are slim to none, just because of the exposure and because we take things very personally here because like we talked about earlier, it's like 1 degree of separation. You know, yeah. I know someone who knows Lori Vallow. I know someone who knew JJ. I know someone who knew Lieutenant Hermosillo. We're all so close in that aspect, and it feels that way.
Right.
So the only time it becomes an issue is jury selection. And I think that when they are selecting a jury, it's less about who hasn't heard of the case and more about who is going to be the least biased when they're presented all the information.
Right.
And so, but yeah, we do. I mean, it is so personal. We all feel it so deeply because like I said, like it's in our backyard.
Absolutely. So we're just getting warmed up here for the new season of Gem State. I kind of teased it a little bit earlier, but you actually got to sit down with Lieutenant Hermosillo.
Yeah, it was awesome.
That was incredible. For those listeners that don't know who he is, Lieutenant Hermosillo works at the Rexburg Police Department. He was one of the lead detectives looking for the kids. He was there the day they found the kids. He was part of the search team. Obviously, I got the full front row seat to the conversation here in the recording booth. Give us just a little insight into how do you feel the conversation went? What was like any big takeaways that you have from that?
First of all, if he's listening, I just want to say thank you again. That was one of the coolest experiences of my life. I don't know if I'll ever get an opportunity like that again. That was really, really special. He's really well spoken and he was eager to talk to us. So thank you if you're listening. I can't wait for you guys to hear it. I think that talking to him gave me another level of understanding the case, and it made me feel so assured that we had the best hands possible. These kids' lives were in the best hands possible. He really put it into perspective for me just how many desks this case crossed and just how many people deserve a thank you. There were so many entities and so many organizations and so many people that really we owe these guilty verdicts to. And we are so lucky. He explains, just as a little teaser, he explains that all of the organizations across the board, usually when you as a true crime expert myself, you hear about these entities not communicating with each other because they want to be the one to solve the case. He said that they never ran into that issue. And that's amazing. I mean, it's spectacular to hear that. And it was really nice to sit down with someone who's like that, because a lot of times these detectives don't want to share information or anything like that. He was a great person to talk to, and I hope you guys get a lot of good information. I asked him a lot of good questions. So
I completely agree. I went home after that interview. I remember sitting and telling my wife, he he is the detective that I would want to be the detective. Like if it was our kids,
if my kids were missing,
God forbid,
yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
But he's the detective you want on the case.
I completely agree.
He is completely professional, completely driven. He's just dogged as a detective. It was really neat. I really enjoyed the conversation with him as well. And so, I guess enough teasing as far as that goes. You guys will definitely have to tune in on our next episode to catch the entire conversation with Lieutenant Hermosillo and Andy. It was fantastic. Any final thoughts as we're kind of, warming up episode 1 here? Any kind of,
like you said, we're looking back on this specifically now instead of it happening in real time. And so I think I just speak for everyone when I say, thank God. I think that as much justice as could possibly be done has been done in this case. I'm so happy for the Woodcocks. I'm happy for everyone who has been, directly affected by this. And I'm happy for Idaho that we were able to see justice in real time. It's been a crazy couple years just living through this and watching it all unfold. And I think, like I said, I speak for everyone here and everyone in the true crime community. Like I think we're all very grateful and very satisfied with how it ended.
I completely agree. The wheels of justice move slow, but they do move.
Yes.
And I think it's been, as much as any situation like this can be, healing to a point to start seeing that justice has been done.
And getting closure. I mean, finally getting that long awaited stamp of you can start healing now.
Yeah, it feels like it's an open wound until that guilty verdict is read out.
Yeah, that keeps getting poked too. Because
especially during the trial. Yeah,
because they're reliving this trauma and having to see, so
just
much.
The most horrific things.
Yeah. And hearing testimony that you don't want to hear. And I can't imagine being so directly affected by the case, like being like 1 degree away from the case and feeling it in that aspect. Because I know the pain I felt just as a reporter who doesn't know these children, doesn't know any of these people. Right. I can't imagine what it was like and the feeling that they have now. And I hope that they have the best healing journey that they possibly can from here on out.
I completely agree. Well, Andy, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Being a part of season 2 with us. We're so excited to have you. Tell everyone where they can find you.
You can find me on TikTok. It's at Idaho Crime Squad. And then you can find me anywhere you get your podcast, Spotify, YouTube, or Apple Podcasts. And that's at Idaho Crime Squad Pod.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. This is Gem State, The Trials of Chad and Lori Daybell, Season 2.